So the Solomon Islands are the champions of the Melanesia region. They are crowned MSG Prime Minister's Cup 2023 winners after beating the hosts New Caledonia 1-0 in the final. We're going to talk what this means in isolation for the Solomon Islands, what an achievement it is, what this means for the Pacific Games coming up. How can we reflect on PNG and Vanuatu's performance? And we'll talk a little bit about the losers of this match, but certainly not losers overall in this tournament. Hosts New Caledonia and their performance. Hello, welcome to DNQ Football. Likes, subscribes, comments, they all help us out. You know the drill by now. Let's talk about this afternoon. This evening, this morning to me, early hours in the United Kingdom, I watched Papua New Guinea lose a very poor performance in this year's MSG Cup from Papua New Guinea. They lost 1-0 to Vanuatu, meaning they finished bottom of the group. Vanuatu, third bottom, second to last, instead of third bottom, I suppose, trying to work out the best way to say it. The bottom two sides, it was like a third, fourth place playoff. Vanuatu got the bronze trophy in that one. Vanuatu, it was a strange tournament for them. PNG, it was just a poor one. But really, that game was just the warm-up, because all attention turned into what became a final between the Solomon Islands and hosts New Caledonia. New Caledonia, an unprecedented performance in the first two games, beating both PNG and Vanuatu, scoring plenty of goals in the process and only conceding one up to this point. Solomon Islands a little bit more reserved. They got the 3-1 win against Papua New Guinea, but only 1-0 against Vanuatu. That was a tight game. They didn't have it all their own way. And that built up to, you may have seen the preview, Ryan and I we didn't really know who we were going to predict for that one. We went with the Solomon Islands, but we're not really claiming that as a sort of win for our predictions, because we just went with kind of what we knew. We both admitted we didn't know enough about this New Caledonia side, a side that has performed above and beyond at this tournament. If you reflect on the year that they've had, the last sort of 4 or 5 years that they've had coming into this tournament, we didn't really give them a fair chance. But something about that home crowd, didn't seem like there were all that many in for some of the games. But nonetheless, the home crowd playing at the Stade Numa Daily Magenta, it clearly plays a part. Vanuatu felt it last year getting to the final, or at least their B-side did. And New Caledonia performed really well up to this point. And if you watch the game, you'll know what I'm about to say. If you didn't watch the game, I'll give you a very brief synopsis. Cagey, frantic, mental. End to end, either side could have won it, to be honest. I thought that in the first half, New Caledonia maybe were the stronger side. It was 0-0 at half-time. And end-to-end and crazy is honestly how I'd sum up the game. There really wasn't a lot between the two sides. Both sides got the ball down and played a little bit. The quality maybe not as high as it has been in the past from what I've seen from the Solomon Islands, but I think that New Caledonia did really well in the first half. They got the ball down, they played, they went direct, as both sides did when they could. But they got to halftime 0-0. And the second half started similarly. I thought that the Solomon Islands maybe grew into the second half a little bit, and it became far more of a level contest. But it took until the 77th minute before Wonder Boy himself, Rafa Lea'i, popped up with a goal. It kind of came out of nothing, really. He got to a loose ball. He took it past a few players, rounded the keeper and popped it in. Very impressive period of him being on the ball. The build-up prior to that, nothing to write home about, nothing sensational. But as soon as he got the ball at his feet, the commentators, I couldn't understand it because it was in French, you could tell the volume raised up a few decibels, and there was just ever-growing confidence that he was going to do something special, and he did. And it was a tremendous goal. But that really probably the only moment of true quality in the final third, I'd say. A lot of huff and puff and heavy build-up from both sides in the build-up to that goal. There was some decent saves. There was a corner that almost went directly in for the Solomon Islands, which was cleared. But until that goal, it was really waiting for something to happen, and it did. And you know, if you're a side from this region, you have a player like Rafa Lea'i at your disposal in the final third. You hope that he pops up in moments like this. Of course, his fourth goal of the tournament, he wins the Golden Boot for the MSG Prime Minister's Cup as well, and a truly sensational tournament for him. Hopefully he can find a club in the A-League or the surrounding areas a bit closer to home after the breakdown with Velez Mostar. And then the game really just was about whether or not the Solomon Islands could hold on. New Caledonia, they fought hard. They had an incredible long-range effort late on in the game saved. They just couldn't muster anything. There were no, oh my goodness, a sitter chance. You know, that old adage that you always get one chance. I don't feel like they had that. It just didn't come about for them. And it ended Solomon Islands 1, New Caledonia 0. What does this mean for the Pacific Games? Well, it's the perfect warm-up, isn't it, for the Solomon Islands victory on away soil in the MSG Cup, and of course they'll be fighting for gold at home in the Pacific Games, because it will be held in the Solomon Islands later on this year. There will be coverage of the football element here on DNQ Football. But I think it gives confidence to their opponents today as well. I think it gives confidence to New Caledonia that they can put up a fight, and they'll be in and amongst it. Of course, you've got other sides like Fiji who weren't in this edition of the tournament to focus on the Pacific Games. You should have the Comalong brothers back for Papua New Guinea, which I personally do believe will make a huge, huge difference. But I think it will give confidence to the Solomon Islands, obviously victors, and also New Caledonia, their opponents today, that they can fight and push for gold in the football element of the Pacific Games. As an individual achievement for the Solomon Islands, they're champions of this region. They're the best side. Overall, if you take current form, which you have to, New Caledonia, they're in a good vein of form. They played 3 games, won 2, lost 1, so you would say that's amazing form. But the way they've played is far better than previous editions of this tournament. If you look at last year, and certainly, you know, how they got on in World Cup qualification a few years back now, they're playing pretty well. But this tournament is prestigious. I know there's only 4 teams in it, but this is basically the top dogs without New Zealand vying for this trophy. I know Fiji didn't take part. Solomon Islands probably still fancy themselves to be slightly better than Fiji in truth, across the board. But this is very prestigious. You saw the celebrations last time out when Papua New Guinea won it. This means an awful lot to the teams in this region. And the Solomon Islands would have been felt like they could have done more last time out. They got to the semi-final stage. There were more teams, so there was a semi-final and a final. But they could have done more. We always expect them to win this tournament. Maybe that's harsh on them, and maybe that's harsh on the other sides. But they were very professional this time around. You know, they only conceded 1 goal. That was in their opening game, a 3-1 win over Papua New Guinea. And then just 2 1-0s. And look, it might not be as entertaining as some of the scorelines we've seen in the past, but you win tournaments by winning games 1-0. And if they can build on this going into the Pacific Games, hell, if they can build on this going into World Cup qualifiers in a few years, they might find themselves in with an outside chance of achieving something really, really special. But if we dwell on this for a moment, Solomon Islands 1, New Caledonia 0. They win the MSG Prime Minister's Cup 2023. Where will Rafa Lea'i end up? How will these teams do in the Pacific Games? These are all questions for you. Get your thoughts down in the comments section. Great the engagement we've had throughout this tournament. Appreciate all of you very much. Obviously, likes, subscribes. They all help moving us in the right direction as well. And a shout out to FedCalFoot, the New Caledonia Football Federation, I assume, on YouTube. You can watch all the matches there. They've streamed it, which is hugely helpful to us. We hope that more and more tournaments from this region and around the world get televised in some way, so that we can bring some kind of coverage to you. So if you want to check out the games, check out @FelcadFoot on YouTube. That's all that there is for me to say. Solomon Islands champions, congratulations to them. Commiserations to the hosts, and very, very well done getting that far, New Caledonia. And we will see you next time.